everybody. Welcome to the Joy of Posting. I'm Rachel, and I am your Dante for this evening. I will be taking you on a journey of jokes. I have my harpoon to help me with my jokes. I have my Diet Coke to help me with my jokes, and I have off screen just a little bit of my prescribed medication to help me write my jokes. Very prescribed, very necessary. How are you guys all doing? I am going to vamp while I wait for a semblance or an actual audience to appear. One thing I will do is I'm going to open the show because I'm a sneak. I'm going to open the show in my phone so that I can watch. Because one thing I have to do for the show is share my screen. And sharing my screen means that I will not be able to look at myself or kind of know what's happening, in which case it's very good to watch the show in from another device, rather. So I'm just going to open up my thing real clear right here. And it seems we have one viewer, so we're going to wait a little while just to get more viewers. And whether or not we have a lot of viewers tonight could be the consequence of many reasons. Perhaps I failed to promote the show enough. Perhaps people are tired of this particular show, and I need, in the course of my life and in my the course of myself as a Twitch streamer, to evolve my vision. And we're up to 4 viewers. I'll give everyone a second or more to kind of hop on. I don't want to play to no one, and usually people like the show. Usually people come and watch this show. So I'm just going to give a little bit more, one more little gentle prod through the power of my Twitter, which is really the whole reason I have this show. The whole reason I thought people might want to watch a show like this one, because I write jokes on my Twitter all the time. And people seem to like them. Live now, please join. Very lonely is what I'm writing into my phone. And hopefully this will be enough to persuade people to spend their hard-earned free time with me. Everyone's back from the listicle factories, from the content factories. Hopefully in the mood to write some jokes with me. Again, the way this show works is I'm going to write jokes during it. I'll have my screen shared so that you can follow along. And then I will be kind of commenting on my own process the way a Bob Ross-like figure might. I will explain why I choose some words instead of other words, why I choose some ideas instead of other ideas, why I might abandon a premise, or why I might continue working with a premise. These are all on the table for things I might do during my show. And while the show's going on, you can write your own jokes in the chat. You can tweet your own jokes that are inspired by my own joke writing process. If you tag 2MB Studios at 2MB Studios on Twitter, we will retweet them. I think that's just a nice, cool thing to do. We're all going to become great joke writers together. Kat says, I'm here. Sorry I'm late. Kat is one of, if not the most loyal viewer of this and possibly every 2MB Studios show. She's at, I believe, almost all of them, and I really enjoy the fact that she is apologizing for being late to a Twitch show, which I don't think is really a thing. 2MB Studios says, lol, Rachel's voice is very lullaby-esque. That's right. That's why it's such a shock when I write these fucking zingers. I'm actually I'm not sure where everybody is. I'm going to just vamp a little bit longer just because we're a bit low on numbers. In the same way that if you are doing a comedy show at a theater, for example, the thing I used to do all the time, and there wasn't much of an audience, you would like hold the audience, you'd hold the show in case more people come in. You're like, don't start the show yet, we're waiting for more people. So a show that is not well attended may start later for that reason. Thinkertron 2000 says, oh, I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Awesome. I love Canada. I've been once. Things I associate with Canada, Dear Zachary, French Mimes, Stephen Harper, and the work of the Trailer Park Boys. These are my Canadian stereotypes. They may or may not be yours. Guys, we're up to 6 viewers. This is exciting. A fun fact about this particular channel is that we are trying to get everyone up to a certain average audience view because we believe it's important for people to promote their shows and to work on building their audience. So if this were normal, I would be canceled. So congratulations, you're getting to see me possibly, not my last show, but if it continues on this way, perhaps this is trending a terminal descent toward the mountain of cancellation. Not true according to Matt. But anyway, I'm going to see if can people read my tweets? Let's see. Nandalabra retweeted my call for people to watch. So hopefully there will be more people coming soon. Otherwise, it's just us, you 6, and me 1. Absolutely lonely, except for the fly that is mercifully not flying around the room. If I seem to lose my shit at any point during this show, it is because the fly has decided to fly and start buzzing. So hopefully you can see my screen. If not, I have aired. There we go. We're gonna write some jokes now. And just hope people show up. We'll see. This is probably blessedly this is probably one of the least attended episodes so far. Blessedly, because usually people do show up, people do come to the show. So perhaps I need to change what the show is about. Perhaps people are done with this concept or premise. Or perhaps it's just bad luck and everyone's watching the Heat. Hopefully win, because there's no shame in losing to the best, and therefore the Heat must win because they just beat the Celtics. And I don't want to be ashamed. That's not what I want to do. Cool. So yeah, we're still at 6. Wow. What an own. Well, let's do some classic coping. Classic cope whenever you are feeling down. You like to do some little jokes. Whenever I'm down, I like to do some little jokes. I like to here is where the craft comes in play. I like to write some little jokes. Write is a stronger word than do. Already, you're learning so much. Whenever I'm down, I like to write some little jokes. For example, tiny banana peel causes a mouse to slip, or the human conception of time and the eternal. So those are both very small things, but the second one is not necessarily an example of a tiny joke you might expect. That's what makes it so funny. You can tell it's funny because of the way I stopped writing that joke. Like it's done. So to continue, we're going to just tweet this out. Whenever we feel like a joke is done, it's best to just get it out of our system, get it out on the page of the internet. There is very little revision when it comes to tweeting. If you're spending 40 minutes on a joke for Twitter, you're spending too long. You should spend 40 minutes writing, 10 to 20 jokes. That is a much better use of your time. Cool. So we tweeted that one out, and we'll see how it does. And that's how Twitter works. That's the atom of it. That's the the nucleus of this process. You just saw it live here, folks. Let's see, are there any more people watching? We're up to 8. Pretty exciting. It's funny, we had a premiere episode of my friend Lissa and Hugo's show, working title, and they had 30 people watching. It was wonderful. And am I jealous? Of course not. What the old must cede to the young, the old must cede to the new. And the rocks must cede to the sea. And I have accepted this fate comedically. Can I have some water? Because I'm rapidly turning into an old woman. It's very important to drink and stay hydrated, not for the reasons you think. People are always telling me to stay hydrated online, and it's like, okay, Jesus Christ. Your body, and it's important to drink water. It's important to drink water. It's important to stay hydrated. When your body runs out of water, you become. Kid Tempest writes, well, I didn't see their show, but I just got home and watching you. Thank you, Kid. I do not resent other people's success. I love all success. I just also am aware when I'm not succeeding, and that's fine. I'm not angry. I love it when other people succeed. I guess I'm just like a great person that way. Cool. It's important to stay hydrated when your body runs out of water and you become important to, so we're going to start with drinking water. It's important to drink water when your body dries out, when your dries out and becomes dehydrated. That's when you have to watch out for the astronauts. They will try to eat you. This, I feel, I don't know if it's the perfectly worded version of this joke, but I just had the thought right now while I was playing with this idea, and I'm pretty happy with it. I feel like people are always telling you to stay hydrated or drink water online in a way that feels a little condescending, if helpful. It's but although I do wonder like how much it's helpful versus how much people want to feel helpful. And I like the idea that you have to stay hydrated for a completely surprising reason. So we're gonna tweet this right now. What we're gonna do is, because we're still pretty low on viewers, I'm going to shamelessly create within the tweet a promotion for the show that you are watching right now. Watch us write more jokes live right now. And then twitch.tv.2MB Studios. Hopefully I attached that promotion to the right joke, to a joke people liked and not to a joke people did not care for. Cool. So let's keep going. How's everybody doing in the chat? Kat, Thinkertron, and Kit, how are you all faring on this lovely Wednesday night? I hope you're all doing well. I'm going to take a little soda. I'm going to drink it right in front of you all because this is live. And that is by nature, by its very nature, exciting. As we used to say on stage, none of this has ever happened before, and none of it will ever happen again. We usually left out the part where we said only this will happen before and again, differently, but only in tiny variations. Thinkertron says, I'm tired, but I'm having fun. Thinkertron, that's all that really matters. I hope you're having a wonderful night in Manitoba, I believe you said. I believe people are tired. People are tired. I think people are wary from the debate. I feel like everyone I know watched the debate, hated it, watched it anyway, and then have been very grumpy. I feel like that's been sort of the dynamic, and people are unhappy and about the way things have turned out, and that is reasonable. I just don't feel like if you can't affect an outcome on something, you don't have to be involved in it in an emotional way. You can just say, you know what, the debate's going to happen. It's going to be awful. I can spend my time. I have agency over how I spend my time. I'm going to do something else. Everyone has agency over how they spend their time. For example, instead of focusing on the news today, whenever I write a political tweet, I really do try to keep it abstract enough that it's not like I'm not trying to pander. I just feel like I am not smart about politics in a way that I would consider specific. I like to work with sort of ideas on their own that aren't necessarily tethered or anchored to a particular moment as much, because I feel like the specifics are of the day to day can be what get you, because people can get invested in the minutia, and then they're no longer kind of writing the main thrust of the joke with you. So sometimes it's fun to keep things on a slightly more conceptual level, just so that people will ride the roller coaster the whole way through without jumping off. Cesar says, "Hi, Rachel." Hi, Cesar. How are you doing? I'm glad you're here. Cool, we're up to 10 viewers. I am no longer canceled. We're just writing some jokes. This one is going to be not about the debate, i.e. a thing people spent their time on despite knowing it was terrible and knowing they could not affect it. So we're going to take that idea and turn that into the joke, because I think that's pretty relatable. At least it is to a lot of people I know. So everyone has agency over how they spend their time. For example, instead of focusing on the news today, I have chosen to push the minute hand of a giant clock back, so I have a bit more time to panic about how to spend these last 50 years above water. I always like playing. Yeah, I have to gently play with, the whimsical and sort of the apocalyptic. You have a giant clock. Giant clocks are on their face. There's a pun. Very funny. And then obviously climate fears will often overwhelm, for me, thoughts about the future. And I think that's fine to address, and that's fine to sort of, choose to head face on. You may notice that I'm a compulsive highlighter. You may be wondering if I'm doing that for any particular reason. Now that I notice that I'm doing it in front of you all, and the answer is that I just highlight compulsively. It's like basically my version of like chewing on my fingernails. But it doesn't mean anything. I just like the action of doing that. So don't worry, it doesn't mean a thing. So let me just reread this joke to see if it has any, if it plays, or if I like to play with it at all. Before I do that, Funky Tuba, hello. Hi, Rachel. Hello, Funky Tuba. Loaf Wonderbread says, I looked up otter pictures today. #agency. Otters are very cute. They do rape, but also they're cute regardless. That's one of those. Otters rape is like John Lennon beat his wife, and that's like one of those like downer facts that people are a little bit too excited to bring up. And I do recognize and acknowledge that by bringing it up, I have fallen into that particular trap. But that might be another core to a new joke. A cat has only heard of that just now. I'm very sorry, cat. I'll find a way to make it up to you. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to say anything. But I chose to, not out of malice, but out of a compulsive need to be intelligent, which is a flaw of mine, I think of many people, but especially of me. Let me read this joke again. Example has, everyone has agency over how they spend their time. For example, if instead of focusing on today's news, we can sharpen and tighten this up a little bit. I have chosen to push the minute hand of the giant clock. Push. See, we like to put kind of related ideas. Push back is stronger than push and then a bunch of words and then back, because then you're like, what are we doing back? We're pushing it back. Put those words together. I have chosen to push back the minute hand of the giant clock in the middle of town square. That way of the square. That way we all have is obviously a little bit bigger than I have. That way we all have a bit more time to panic about how to spend these last 50 years above water. Beautiful. So this is nice. I like this one. I don't know. It might be too much of a downer to be just one moment. Funky Tuba asks, what's the provenance of the clock? I believe that means like, where does the clock come from? A lot of times I'll begin in metaphor and or I'll begin with something conceptual and I'll decide that I want like a literal version of it in the joke. For example, everyone has agency over how they spend their time. When I say the word time, I think of the word clock, and I'm like, it's funny to use your time working on a clock that's just that has sort of a pleasant fractal quality or a pleasant recursive quality. And so it's fun to kind of, if you have to choose things to happen in a joke, there's an internal logic to the sort of the recursive thinking where you don't have to kind of come up with a whole bunch of new bullshit. You're just like, time has already been introduced. Bringing a clock into the joke isn't inventing. We're just kind of discovering or associating based off of what we've already written. So that's kind of a way for me to expand a joke or to build off the first line or first sentence without feeling like I have to like scratch my head and really like dig down and be like, okay, what's a funny thing? Funky Tuba has given me 2 thumbs up. I believe they're thumbs up and not middle fingers, although the emojis do look alike sometimes. So I believe that was actually, guys, congratulations to me. I believe I satisfactorily answered a question. I don't know if I've always done that on this show before, so I think it only took 4 episodes. Oh no, it's too long. That is the agony and the ecstasy of Twitter, folks. It's okay. We're going to figure this out. Everyone has agency over how they spend their time. For example, instead of focusing on today's news, you can just like do little things. I've chosen to push back the minute hand of the giant clock standing in middle of the square. That way, and clock in the middle of the town. My square go away. That way we all have more time. Have more time to panic about how to spend these last 50 years above water. So I enjoy this joke because it seems like we're going to move away from like a dark idea or dark plaguing thoughts, but then we just loop right back toward them like a clock. Which also, again, a pleasant recursive quality of the joke. So I don't know if this is particularly hilarious, but I do believe it is expertly crafted, if nothing else. And perhaps this is a lesson in how an expertly crafted joke isn't always that funny. Going back to the chat, Alyssa says, can't roll back the clock on the length of the post. Lisa says, I stand corrected. One thing that's nice is I've written so many tweets, I've written so many posts that I feel fairly confident in my ability to expand or constrict the length of jokes as I go on. It's I've never, or at least in recent memory, had a joke that I like just couldn't fit into a tweet. And also, if you do, you can just really screenshot it if it's so funny. Funky Tuba says you can lose the in front of town. Did I lose the in front of town? Let's see. I may have messed that up. I don't know if you've ever written jokes in front of people before. It's weird. You know what? We'll go back. It won't let me see it. It won't let me see it. It's too blown up. We'll go back in a bit and see if I cheated by removing a word that was necessary. What's really cool about Twitter is that if people like the idea of your joke, they actually are pretty forgiving about misspellings and like missing words. I've actually gone pretty viral with some tweets that do have missing words in them. And that is pretty cool. You're like, people actually are forgiving at heart. People are not the cruel busybodies you may sometimes imagine them to be. A little drink of water, because I do tend to lose my voice in the middle of this show. I don't know how Bob Ross did it, because he's never shown drinking water. Although that show has a lot of cuts, a lot of edits, so I think that they may cut him drinking water out. Kat says, we brains fill in words we expect to be there a lot. That is true, Kat, and definitely something you can take advantage of as a tweeter. Alyssa says every single cut is him taking a mighty sip. I will be unable to watch Bob Ross now, imagining all his huge. I like that they're not gulps; they're still sips, but they're huge sips, but they're mighty sips, and they're between every single edit in the show. So everyone, I would like you to imagine that. Actually, I wonder if that's a tweet. Let me see if I can write that down, because that's very funny. It's spoken out loud, but can we tweetify this idea? Every time there's an edit in Joy of Painting, that's Bob Ross taking missing footage of Bob Ross taking a 20-minute long sip of water. I've taken a mighty sip, but I've changed it to a 20-minute long sip. Mighty sip is property of Lissa. Lissa can use that in one of her jokes going forward in the future, but I do not want to take it. Slurp. Again, not a gulp, a sip. Sips are very funny. Thank you all. I just also want to be grateful. We're up to 12, which is very nice. Thank you all for watching tonight. A bit of a lower house tonight than I'm used to, which I swear this is the last time I'm going to bring it up, except for at the end, because I'm definitely going to bring it up at the end of the show. But I'm just really glad that you're all here, that we're all working together. I hope you all have your own joke pads out. You're all writing down your ideas. Again, if you want to write a joke and you want me to help you brainstorm it or help you write it anyway, I'm happy to do that as well. Because apparently people are writing jokes and thinking about jokes while they watch the show, and that actually shouldn't be surprising. Kat says you can find the missing footage in the VHS tapes. Alyssa says, OMG. OMG indeed. Let's see, I'm going to think of some. The hardest part about the show, arguably not the punchlines, but the setups, because you're always kind of thinking of a setup which would lead itself to a punchline. Every strong premise should have its punchline sort of waiting inside it like an egg. Premises are like eggs, guys. So let's see. Everyone's discussing where the missing sipping footage is from. This is good content. I like this a lot. Hey, Games with Goat. Bob Ross drinking water, 20-hour supercut. It's funny too because you think he's such a gentle man. I bet that it doesn't even hit his beard. Like he's just very, he's got an artist's hand, so nothing ever gets in his beard. He's just very careful and gentle. And there's a surgical quality to his gentleness, which I think is what ultimately makes him so appealing as a cultural figure. I like that there's so many ways of drinking. There are so many ways of drinking. Thinkertron says, I bet Bob Ross naps in a way that's aesthetically pleasing. Oh, I bet he napped like the way like a maiden would nap in like in like a Botticelli painting, on his side and chest outward and covered in like loose draping material. Perfect. Just a perfect guy. I think of him. There are many ways of drinking. Slurps, sips, gulps, and slurps. Thank you, Funky Tuba, for offering these examples of how to drink. There's a lot going on in the chat, and I'm glad that you guys are very active. You're 13, but a mighty 13 you are. Cheers to you. There's so many ways of drinking. Sips, gulps, and slips are all on the table. And those are just drinking straight. And the drink is on. And drink. I think of ways so I don't have to repeat the word drink, because I feel like it's always nice to vary the verbiage in a way where it doesn't feel like you've just run out of ways of saying things. I may give up on this one. Sips, gulps, and slurps are all on the table, and those are just ways of drinking. On the table. And drink is on the table. I think that's fine. Thank you. When the beverage, thank you, Games with Goat. When the beverage is on the table. Looking at it, reviewing it. I would never say I quite admire a joke, because I never really know if anyone likes a joke or if a joke will do well. It's super, very occasionally I'll be like, this joke is gonna fucking knock your socks off. But 90% of the time I'm like, it could go completely either way. I think what really happens to me is that fluid's a great word. What happens to me is I go through, and I think this is pretty typical, like boom and bust days. Like I'll like be completely unfunny for like 3 days in a row, and I'd be like, man, I can't write a joke for shit anymore. And then like on the fourth day, it's like all my pent up comedic energy will like let loose at once, and I'll just write like 5 or 6 bangers, and I'll be like, where were you guys on Tuesday? Like, can't I be consistent about anything? Dear Lord, body. And not to get that I remind myself that I should forgive myself on my trespasses as God would forgive me. Thank you, Alyssa, for retweeting the joke. You heavily inspired and are arguably part author of. Thank you very much. Let's do some more. Let's see. More jokes about things. Bob Ross never met a fluid he couldn't scrape on a canvas for visual effect. I feel like we're really in a Bob Ross spiral right now, and we're going to try to get ourselves out of it. I like joking about different things, and I don't know if it makes the jokes better to you know do a little bit of a charcuterie board in terms of subjects, or I'm continuing to like jump from subject to subject. That's how I particularly like to write, so that I'm not like I'm not malingering on any particular subject, because I think the more I focus on something, the more obsessive I get on it. Often, it may or may not be as funny or funnier, but often the less fun I happen to have or suspect that I'm having. So that might be not a reason to not do the same subject all the time. So we're gonna just start some new stuff. We had our fun with Bob Ross. Now we're gonna move on to um, deer in headlights is gonna mean something. Cat does not want to move on from Bob Ross. Dear Abby, deer in the headlights is gonna mean something new when deer start um, and deer develop the brain matter necessary to become car mechanics. It will mean making sure the headlights are working. This one I've chosen not to. This one gives me enough sensual pleasure in its conception that I'm choosing not to revise it at all. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you're just like, that was fun to write. Who knows if it works? But you get to give yourself some of those. You're like, at most, it will be confusing and inoffensive, and at best, it will be enjoyed and loved by all. Now, there is some talk of advice columnists in the chat, so now I'm happy to move on to some advice columnist jokes, because advice columnists are funny. Advice columnists refuse to answer my query. I simply want to know how I can get my boyfriend. An advice columnist a job I find unseemly, find ethically dubious, and possibly what is another a fun reason for an advice columnist to be bad? Advice columnist refused to answer my query. I simply want to know how I can get my boyfriend. Advice columnist to quit a job I find absurd, ethically dubious, and arguably absurd. Not using Oxford commas. Distasteful. Find and arguably cosmically absurd. YouTuber says, you'd think they'd appreciate the reduced competition. You would, but oh boy, they don't see it that way. FunkyTuber, they don't see it that way at all. FunkyTuber's idea that they are being irrational because they should appreciate the reduced competition is would be if I had decided that this needed like more of a curvature, like more twists and turns in there, that might be a way for me to extend the joke. I think that I happen to feel the joke seems pretty good right now, or that more turns would only kind of confuse it and cause it to become a bit more chaotic than necessary. But definitely in your jokes, always feel the capacity and always feel like it is within your power to extend the joke and to give it more twists and turns if you feel like those are warranted. Cool. Thank you guys all for watching. Let's see how we're doing. We're still at 12. It's a low number night. I said I wouldn't mention till the end of the show, and here I am doing it. I'm not just a streamer. I'm also a producer, so this stuff always matters to me. Sometimes I'm like, I should stream more. And then sometimes I'm like, I stream exactly enough. A lot of people say, Rachel, I would love to watch you stream, but I can't because I can't. I have other things, and that makes sense. And in fact, it makes me nostalgic for when I had improv shows, and people could never make them. Some people made them, and those people were heroes. I don't know if I'll ever do improv on stage again, and that's a scary thought, but it's also fine. I feel like I had a really fun, strong run of 6 or 7 years doing improv, and if this is the end, which I resent that I didn't choose it, but if it is the end, then I feel like I got a better deal than a lot of people. A lot of people, as a teacher, I see a lot of people in the classes, like really excited to get on stage, and for them, I feel the worst. Who are just on the brink of becoming the performers they were excited to become, and to follow the footsteps of the people they were excited to follow, and then like everything just went to shit. Thinkertron says, I'm thinking about how skateboarding is a huge part of pop culture, but most people can't name a second skater after Tony Hawk. But Pfeiffer says, I'm here just quietly lurking and playing a terrible game. Dissa says, live theater is going to come back, or else Tiny Knife. It'll come back. I'll probably be in a different place by then, I assume. You can't do these things with passion that you give them forever. Because at some point you have to be like, your life has to change. I do love comedy, though. I will like to try to stay comedically active. It's important to stay physically active. Just one moment. Funky Tuba says, I've brought 2 giant monitors home from our office for COVID, my desk in our bedroom, so Mrs. Funky is threatening to require sunscreen to enter. I love hearing about the Funkies. Thank you, Funky Tuba. I love that you've chosen a name by which you are now allowed to call your wife Mrs. Funky, and we're all on board with it. I think that's lovely. Let's see if I can finish this joke. It's important to stay physically active as you get older. When I hit 30, I started it's called when you ride the rails. I started hopping on garbage trucks. I started hiding in garbage cans so that he picked up I started hiding in trash cans. So I had trash cans so I can say garbage later. I started hiding in trash cans so that I'd be picked up by garbage trucks, giving me exciting opportunities to swim to freedom among complete DVD collections of the TV show Becker. Becker's always the funniest TV show because arguably no one's ever seen. People have both seen it and not seen it. It was popular at the time, and I also have never heard anyone ever mention it, and that makes it funny. Important to stay physically active as you get older. When I hit 30, I started hiding in trash cans so I'd be picked up by the garbage truck, giving me exciting opportunities to swim to freedom among people's complete DVD collections of the TV show Becker. Like, this is one of those jokes where I'm like, I kind of want to give it a little tag, but there's only 11 characters left, and I don't have the space, so this has to be enough, you guys. Trash can, so I'd be picked up by the garbage truck, giving me opportunities to swim to freedom among people's complete DVD collections of the TV show Becker. I would give it a new. If I did have the space, I'd give another line about how people have been throwing Becker away like every week or something, like almost like a ritualistic garbaging or binning. Like, why does everyone on the street have Becker, and why is everyone throwing it away every week? People like a joke that would necessitate people to have multiple DVD collections of Becker so they could throw it away every week. There's a lot there. It almost necessitates for me a second joke, like further along in the idea, because we clearly don't have the room for it here. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna tweet this, and then I'm gonna like let the idea of people ritually throwing away things so they can throw them away again and again. That's just gonna be in the back of my head. Owning a lot of things to be able to throw them away again and again. And I'm just gonna put that in parens. We can come back to it, or we don't have to. But it's there. It's no longer in your head. What's really the most important part of joking is just to not let things live in your head too long. For one thing, the longer it lives in your head, the more associations your brain will make that will not be obvious to the viewer, to the audience. And you sort of start to make it into an alienating shape. So you really should get it out once you think of it, because it's sort of at its most relatable when it's the mechanics of it, when its apparatus or its skeleton is kind of most clear to the viewer. Those are my thoughts about jokes and when to write them down. Alyssa says guitar riff. Dang, that's 11. Loaf Wonderbread says second joke for Becker, but not for Bob Ross. LOL. And then the emoji where it has its tongue sticking out. Listen, cat. I think Becker is really funny. Reasons Becker is funny. First of all, I think Bob Ross is like. I don't think Bob Ross is like a hack subject yet, but I feel like he's a well-trod subject, arcing toward hack, just because I feel like he is made fun of and he is a source of fun in so many contexts for so many people. The TV show Becker, I feel like, relatively, especially relative to Bob Ross, let's just enjoy the TV show Becker cast right now. I think there's something so beautiful about weird old sitcoms. Like, who are these people? Why are they standing so close together? Like, immediately you're sort of struck by several things about this cast. First of all, you're like, I know all these people from different places more than I know them from Becker. This last guy, Cheers. I don't know who these other people are. Is that the sister woman? I'm not sure. Probably not. They're all very close together, and you don't know why. And then there's on top of that, there's always sitcoms are incredible in kind of pinning themselves to years based on fashion. They always have fashion choices in them which are not at all evergreen. Like, I'm looking at this woman's shirt. This is like this weird dominatrix cowboy opening thing. She looks like a giant boot. It's wonderful. I'd wear that, but it seems so specific. And of course, her hair is like really crinched. Then we have these like weird variety of expressions. Only Lost Guy seems genuinely happy to be there. Everyone else is sort of in various stages of sort of stoicism or kind of steeled dislike. So there's a lot going on, and also they're in a diner. So there's just like a lot to think about here. And this is why I love sitcoms, because you can just like look at a picture of a sitcom cast. Like they're much happier here, although not all of them are happy still. Still, this guy, I don't know if he's like maybe the straight man in the show, but he doesn't. Okay, he looks happy in this. So it took us 3 pictures, but we did find a picture where this particular gentleman. I have to say, not a great fit. This seems like a really big blazer. A blazer worn as a jacket, possibly. This woman has 2 different collars. Lots going on. Why is he dressed like he is a pilot, like a World War II pilot? And then I think the women are different. I think the women were switched out for other women at some point. This one, this is probably the one where they look happiest, and still not even then. Only 3 people are happy. 3 people are unhappy. So there's a lot going on. I don't know if I'll ever write a joke about Becker, the specifics, because the joke with Becker is that nobody remembers it. But if anyone decided to write a joke about Becker, there's a lot there. Games with Goat says, are these different people? I do believe they switch out the women. This woman from DS9, Terry Farrell, is not in all the photos, which makes me think she departed at some point, because I assume she was. I feel that she left. I feel like I remember she left DS9 for Becker, which, first of all, she must have hated DS9 to leave it for Becker. Second, oh god, she has the white woman things. It's crazy. So much going on in these. Oh, he looks so uncomfortable. Look at this rictus grin. Dear Lord. Alyssa says she got fired from DS9. Sad face. Funky Tuber writes, the whole idea of a full cast shot for a TV show has never made sense to me. They're often at odds with the premise of the show. It's true. Many times, they dislike each other. Which is, I think almost you can tell. I wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, how often you can tell that a sitcom will be successful if you can imagine them all in the same room together. For example, Frasier, you can, now Bulldog is a bit of an antagonistic figure, but I think all of them essentially have affection for each other, and that may have led to the sitcom success. And obviously, Funky Tuba also writes, because the various subplots casts would never be in the same room at the same time. Luckily for Frasier, because it's such an arch satire, or farce rather, you can easily imagine a plot where they'd all be involved sometime. There's some sort of ball happening. Obviously, his producer is there to get laid. She is here. Daphne Moon is here because she had some sort of premonition. They all have reasons to be at this ball, and eventually they all run into each other, and various mishaps ensue. You can imagine it as surely as the rooster crows at dawn. So obviously, that is why Frasier was a successful sitcom. And also, the other reason it was a successful sitcom is that there's nothing immediately strikingly off-putting about their wardrobe. Everything they're wearing is pretty cute. And there's a dog. So those are my thoughts about sitcoms. Let's get back to writing a couple of jokes. I haven't written a ton of jokes for this particular episode. Not that I think anyone is particularly necessarily sobbing over that. Let's see, how are we doing? Oh, we're up to 14. Hello, everybody. So I did go on a little bit of a tangent on sitcoms just because they're fun. I do like also, I swear I'll move on. One thing that's different, one thing that's more satisfying, we just saw a photo of the Becker cast in a diner, and I think what makes this more appealing is that it's clearly an abstracted theoretical space. They have red blocks, there's a red background. Clearly this place represents nowhere in particular. It's really the idea of them all being together as opposed to like a realistic gathering. I think that makes, again, it more easy to swallow rather than the Becker's contrived cast photo where it's like, what if we were all at the same diner? Maybe I thought Becker was a doctor. Maybe it does take place at a diner and that's justified, but I doubt it. Let's see. Having looked through hundreds of TV guides, it's impossible not to conclude that a sitcom's success rested largely on whether the cast photo took place in a realistic setting or an abstracted theatrical space. People in the final analysis do prefer the stage to long for the try putting this in paper. I feel like there's something a little bit off about the end. I can't quite. I think I've been a little less funny than usual tonight, and part of it's just like sometimes you have these off nights where you can't quite stick the landing. I don't feel like I've necessarily stuck this landing. Having looked through hundreds of TV guides, it's impossible not to conclude that a sitcom success rested on whether the cast photo took place in a realistic setting or an abstracted space. People in the final analysis prefer theater. For the confines of theater. Confines and freedoms. Confines and like, is liberatory a word? It feels like it's a word. Having looked through hundreds TV guides, it's impossible not to conclude that a sitcom success rested on whether the cast photo took place in a realistic setting or an abstracted theatrical space. People in the final analysis prefer the liberatory. Is that what I want? I'm having a very frustrated iteration of this show. Liberatory, yes, liberating. I should just say liberating. For the liberating confines of the stage. Yeah, and we're just under the text limit, so that's fine. Let's do a couple more before I put the cap on the candle, as they say. Thank you again for watching tonight. I really appreciate it. I really do enjoy writing jokes in front of you all and taking your questions or just reading your observations and comments. It's really nice just to have the company. I know this is a uniquely lonely time, a time of grave loneliness, as they might say, because of not just COVID. Dr. Love Truffle says, I'm late as fuck, but I made it. Welcome, Dr. Love Truffle. I love it. We have the Funkies and we have the Truffles. I hope that my little 2MB stream family, full of delightful surnames, delightful pseudonyms, will soon fill the room as one might fill a room with the most cherished of stuffed animals who are also sentient. I don't want to assume or imply that you're not. So let's do a couple more before I go, just because I feel like I really went on a big old tangent with those sitcoms, and I didn't end up writing much, which is also part of it. Sometimes you just need to take a little bit of time to get yourself, wetted, both damp and sharp. Ideally, you should be both wet and sharp when you're writing. Alyssa says, I was living for the sitcom comic. I mean, if you guys like it, I'll ask Matt, and this is not what the show is for, but if you enjoy me talking about sitcoms, I could easily, make hay, just for hours. Look at this happy sitcom. You could you could really not tell that the women were getting paid less than men, which is obviously tragical. Look at, they're so happy together. They're making a little pyramid. Um, M2MB Studios says, I'm into talking about sitcoms. I like sitcoms. I love them very much. Alyssa says, I've never had more knowledge about Frasier. It's just great. You have the uptight main character. You have the more uptight. You have the brother who is like a photocopy of the main character, who's just like, all the contrasts have been ratcheted up. So everything that's silly about the main character is exaggerated in the brother, which is wonderful. We have Daphne Moon, obviously an iconic figure of slightly silly British, part yokel but part caring, and altogether lovable. And then you have the gruff kind of former cop dad, and then of course you have kind of the liberated woman, of Roz, and who is constantly seeking her next nighttime companion, as they say in the way of sitcoms. People got laid in sitcoms to a sort of a real big degree, which I've never been personally familiar. I feel like people were always having people when I was growing up, and I would be watching sitcoms. I'm like, wow, when I'm an adult, I'm going to have so much sex, because it's all the plots are just like, who's going to have sex right now. And I don't think I'm prudish. I just think I'm unlucky. Funky says spinach salad and scrambled egg whites. I'm gonna write. Let's see if I can write a couple of sitcom jokes before we go. The best sitcoms were starred 6 archetypes, typically 6 characters, typically the following archetypes. A wise plumber with a secret passion for dance, a former street urchin turned a CEO of ExxonMobil. This one might get too long, but I'm happy with it. Dr. Love Truffle says, I like to imagine a post-apocalyptic world where survivor tribes base their religions off of 90 sitcoms. That is a delight. I hope to live in that world one day. It couldn't be worse than this one. The best sitcoms starred 6 characters, typically the following archetypes. This may run too long for Twitter. A wise plumber with a secret passion for dance, a former street urchin turned CEO of ExxonMobil, twins who finish each other's marriages. So that's 2 people. 2, 3, 4, and we need 2 more. A nun, ninja expert, and 1 more person. One, a fluffy, loud, Catholic. It's always fun to just give a cloud a religion. I think it's funny to give things that don't have religions. This is not specifically I'm not saying it's funny to be Catholic, specifically just funny for things to have religions that don't. Oh, and look, we actually made it under. We had 16 more characters to go. A wise plumber with secret passion for dance, a former street urchin turned CEO of ExxonMobil. As you can maybe garner from this writing, it's always super fun, and I find fairly straightforward to just write joke lists. I'm just a big fan of joke lists. Good morning to those 6 only. Thank you, Lisa. Twins who finish each other's marriages, a nun and nun slash ninja, amateur ninja. It's funny here. and a fluffy cloud. Catholic. I also think that Catholic has like that slight air of like an edgy joke, even though it's obviously not particularly edgy because it's still absurd. But just like the air of edginess will, if you've been working in the purely absurd, just the air of edginess can really kind of put the joke over and lead to a satisfying outcome, I think. Cool. So let's. Dr. Love Truffle says nunges are one of my 3 biggest fears. Loaf says I mathed wrong. JK if you count the twins. Yeah, I do count the twins. So a couple more. Every young adult book series from the 80s were about blonde girls from Connecticut who saw a boy on a motorcycle and needed, let's see, what's a funny number? 9 chapters to recover. That seems fine. Funky Tuba says Jesuit or Franciscan or Marist. Marist, like Maris. I get it. Let's see. I should confess, I don't know if any of these are particularly good on this particular evening. Sometimes I feel like I write really good jokes on the show, and other times I'm like, I wrote jokes, I did something, but I'm not sure if they are up to my little standard that exists and shapeshifts in a way in my head so that I can never quite reach it. But yeah, so I do enjoy, on a sensual level, just knocking them out, even if they end up all sort of being mediocre in the ultimate analysis. It is fun to just write a bunch of jokes really quickly. It feels like going on a nice sprinting jog, just getting the adrenaline up. I don't sprint or rarely jog, but I do like writing jokes, and I assume it's a similar feeling to people when people like those things. Tortoise shell glasses. I was Pro Fight versus Running is for Suckers. I would agree, except my friend Erin seems to really enjoy running. And she's not a sucker. If you ever talk to her, the first thing you'll think is like, not a sucker. Also, you'll think smart, funny, charismatic, all the positive attributes, really. Dr. Love Trouble says jogging is a lie. No one likes it. If they say they do, they're lying. I believe that there are such things as adrenaline and endorphins and chemicals and so forth. I believe certain brains can be rewired to enjoy work. I just haven't, my brain is like a broken birdhouse. It's hard. You think you should just throw it out and start over. Tortoiseshell glasses, inspired by my dad keeps his tortoiseshell glasses by the computer, so I am looking at them often. Why didn't we get good chemicals? I really can't speak to the whys of our cruel god. Tortoiseshell glasses. I think turtle shells are funny because the spine is in them. You can't take them off. Like you would kill the tortoise. Tortoiseshell glasses. I'm trying to think. I'm like, how do I connect spine to reading to human eyeballs? I don't know. I'm gonna come back into this. I think there's something there because tortoiseshell glasses almost never. I don't know any jokes about it. I've never heard a joke about it, so it's obviously untrod territory. And I like the idea that there's something biologically. There's something like physically compelling about this idea of a tortoiseshell being the spine and that I can't take it off. It's part of the body, but I can't quite make the I can't quite spin the ball on this one, so I'll probably keep going. Dr. Love Truffle says I can't. Some people get endorphins. I hope you guys can see these jokes. I hope my screen is big enough. Some people get endorphins. Other people get some people get endorphins. Some people get angry dolphins. Not a huge deal as long as they stay away from the coast. Still others get endorm. This is probably the dumbest joke I've tried to write yet. Kit writes, some people get endorphins, other people get dorsal fins. I do like the idea. I think when you're making like a wordplay joke, I do think it's funnier if the wordplay is like very sonically similar. Like instead of dorsal fins, like something that sounds even like closer to endorphins that makes less sense. Like because angry dolphins is already pretty dumb. Ectodorphins, some people get, still others get ectodorphins. Not sure. I think it's also like funny. I don't know if it's like funny to read, but it's funny to write jokes where you just literally give up on the punchline. You're just like, the idea is that you're expecting the parentheses to be explanatory, and then the last a positive, a brain chemical associated with positive sensation. So you've set up the pattern of the parentheses being explanatory. As long as these folks stay away from the coast, so other get ectodorphins, not sure. So I think it's just funny for the third parentheses to carry no useful information, and for it to just kind of swerve into nonsense. Again, I don't know if anyone will enjoy this but myself, but we're going to give it a run. We're going to give it a run for its money here. Yeah, let's do a couple more. I know I'm over time, and I know that Matt probably wants to either sleep or work on Mind Over Matter. Guys, speaking of Mind Over Matter, if you're near a device which has internet access tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, feel free to watch the grand finale of Season 1 of Mind Over Matter, the reality show competition. It's like 6 episodes long. This is the last one of the season. It's such a good show. It has some of the best people on it, and it's just super fun. And then after that, at 9 tomorrow is the premiere on our channel of Quarantine Action Wrestling, a show that intersperses footage of people playing outrageous wrestling characters with gameplay footage from a particular video game whose name I can't recall, where simulated versions of their characters fight each other. And it's quite funny. And it's quite absurd, and it's just a great community builder, I think, and people love it. So definitely check out the programming tomorrow, especially if you're in the mood for something a little bit different. So I'm gonna cap off with one more joke to end this particular night. Let's see. We're gonna do one more joke. We're gonna do a joke about Frasier. Frasier. Um, Funky Tuba writes, "Thank you. This is very fun. You're very generous to be sharing your process and letting us play in the same space." Funky Tuba, I think it's really generous for you to be spending time with us. I think we're all being generous tonight together. Um, uh, Obviously, I'm not just a streamer. I'm also a producer of this channel. So even though there's a lot of shows on this channel that I don't appear in, I have a lot that I've been doing a lot of work to help steward or shepherd shows onto this channel that I'm very proud of. So definitely, um, as I write this last terrible joke that I've completely given up, please check out the other programs. They're all very good, and I'm very proud of helping get some of them on this channel. This is my last joke, and within it already, I bear the mark of apology. I'm very sorry for everything I put you through by having the show be the last joke. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, we have. Please, if you enjoy this show, or if you perceive yourself enjoying shows from this channel in the future, feel free to follow and subscribe. We are hoping. The more followers and subscribers we get, the more opportunities open up for us in terms of how we can build the channel out, how we can grow the channel, how we can, support the artists who are creating under the umbrella of the channel. Oh, thank you, Games with Goat. Thank you so much. You are a mensch, which is Jewish for good guy or person, rather. So yeah, feel free to follow and subscribe if you haven't already. And otherwise, have a wonderful night. And don't worry, things will get better somehow. They have to. Good night.